Okay,
Are we recording?
we're recording.
Call the meeting to the order. This is the meeting of the Hampden Board of Selectmen, August 10th, 2020. We're conducting the meeting with the participating people at Zoom as required by the governor's mandate at March 2020. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is anyone recording the meeting other than us? Seeing none, we'll begin. Meeting minutes of July 27th, 2020.
I was looking for, is the 27th the ones that Jane took? Okay, do we have an updated copy? Because I had sent in some changes.
I haven't seen the originals or anything.
Those were the ones that when you were on vacation.
Right, Jane took them.
Jane took those.
Right.
And sent in some change. I was hoping to have the updated copy in front of us from Jane.
I'm
No?
sorry, I haven't seen
Okay.
No, I'm fine.
Want to wait, John?
If I see the changes.
So we'll wait on the 27th. Minutes of the meeting on August 3rd.
I know you emailed them. Are there printed copies for us here as well, or no?
I am, I don't know why I didn't, I'm sorry.
That's last week's.
I thought packet-wise they were fine. I have a couple of
I thought.
amendments.
Sure.
Not really.
What's off your comment? Did you have a comment or something?
No.
Yeah, you said like to poke the bears. I think you said, yeah.
Nothing, yeah.
Now, Sasha,
Yep.
I'll give them this motion that we approve the minutes of August 3rd.
Speak up, please.
I move that we approve the minutes of August 3rd.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, I don't know if anyone had a chance to review the 7th of July. I sent those out today in the afternoon.
July 7th. You have to-
With the caveat that it was pretty, I think, difficult to summarize the discussion regarding the ambulance. I think this is it's a good attempt at it, and I think it gets the nuances together without getting into he said, she said, whatever. So with that, make a motion to approve these minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The 3rd and the 7th been approved. 27th is
We'll wait for the copy from Jane. Yeah. Okay. We do have open session on here now.
the new business proposal for the underground storage tank operation services tie and bond. I signed that earlier today. It's $3,500, and it's to have us keep in compliance with our underground tank that we have up at the highway department. They check it out, make sure it's safe and complying with all the EPA regulations, and then it's $3,500 per year.
Formality, I'll make a motion to authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Back.
Already signed. Old business, the action ambulance contract, assignment of designee.
Yes. Prior to July 1, it was the police chief who was the contact person for the AMR ambulance service. We then switched, under the action contract, we switched to the fire chief. Although I don't think the board ever voted on this, and I think there's some disagreement. So we have it on there so that we can have the board designate once and for all who the primary contact person is. In our conversation last week with Action, they said that they could work with both chiefs if you had, I guess right now it's the fire chief who is primary, but they also see an opportunity to work with the the police chief as well under certain circumstances. So anyway, contract says police. If you want to officially make it the fire chief, we can obviously just make a quick change in the contract. They're agreeable to it.
My understanding is that part of the conversation came up that there might need to be a renegotiation if you went that way. It was brought up in the meeting. That if this
If
duty
we
was
made the
taken,
police chief, yeah, if we made the police chief the primary contract, yes, he wants to have a negotiation about that.
Is he the emergency management
He's the
person?
emergency management director.
And does this not fall under that responsibility of that person?
no.
It falls under any individual that you designate. I think what Action would say, and I've asked them this, they said typically they do work with emergency management director, but there again, if you want to make the police chief, there's gonna, he said at the meeting that he would like to have a negotiation, which means an amendment to his contract, I guess.
I did see in a report of the storm damage, there was a report from Long Meadow. And in Long Meadow, I believe the emergency management director is the fire chief. So I don't think there's a universal hard and
No,
fast as
there's
one
not.
or the other. So I think that other caveat is a concern for the board because that would mean opening up, and how long is that going to take?
Are they doing what? I missed it.
Opening up a contract and getting into negotiate, how long will that take?
Well, now you met with the three of them. You met with Action and the police and the fire chief.
I'm gonna update you on that meeting.
Okay.
I can do that now.
Why don't you do that now? So,
We had a very productive meeting on the 6th. We had the two chiefs and the two operatives in Western Mass for Action Ambulance. We discussed the designee situation. We also looked through the contract and clarified any concerns that and there weren't any. And I said to them, what are you looking forward to in terms of an oversight committee? I said, how does the oversight committee work for you in other communities? They said, well, typically it's town staff people. They said the data that they provide to the town is important in many cases for health officials as well as public safety people. For example, if there's a series of transports from a certain part of town involving, let's say, drug abuse, that's important information for the Board of Health. Might also be, if there's illegal activity, important information that the police department ought to be aware of. And so we get the data, and they should be looking at that data to see what it tells them. The story that they told us was that when they started up in Holyoke, they thought that the main health problem resulting in transports to the hospital would have been drug abuse, meaning heroin or other drugs. They said, we found out that that was not the case, that it's alcohol abuse in Holyoke that's far more significant. And so we got that data, and that was of use to the city. And so what they're suggesting is at least we should have a financial official who can keep track of the money issues, how much outlay the town is providing versus how much income they are earning, a public safety official, a health official. That's 4, and he said a citizen, maybe. That would be 5. If you want to go to 7, fine, but sometimes it's difficult when you have volunteers to get everybody together. And so I've always found that a committee of 5 is a lot easier to function than a committee that is larger, because people are busy and it's hard to put everybody in the same room. So that's the recommendation of action, and they said that that's how they normally operate with oversight committees.
Okay, let's go back to the designee now. So what is the exact role of the designee? He receives the reports,
Yes, yes.
right?
Basically, yes, yeah. Watches out for any problems and reports those problems to Selectmen and me.
That's a responsibility he shares with the board.
Pardon? Oh, yes.
With the 5 members.
That's
He
right.
meets with the 5 members. Does he chair that board?
No, they meet 4 times a year.
They only meet
Right,
4
but does he
times a
have to
year,
chair
yes.
it? Because
Yeah.
somebody has to run it.
Yeah, I
Is
mean,
he
we
the
get
runner?
quarterly reports. One more thing before I finish up here. You had asked about billing. So I talked with him about billing. We got the bill, as you know.
Mhm.
So they were a little slow to provide the first bill, but we have it now. And we have a process for handling that.
All right, so the oversight committee, which consists of a financial officer, a public safety officer, the town administrator, a citizen perhaps, and a health officer, a health department person, right? That's the 5-member board. Okay. And they meet quarterly,
Quarterly.
and they look at those things that are outlined in their contract.
And if there are issues and problems that the Board of Selectmen ought to be aware of, then we bring them to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Also, the point person would, on a day-to-day basis, be aware of any problems that are developing and can provide that information to me, and I would provide it to you.
Okay.
The one thing about having a 7-member board, because the 4 spots we talked about, so to speak, mandated ones, would provide a quorum. So if you're concerned about, oh, if we have a 7, maybe they don't have enough to meet, you pretty much the first 4 you named are always going to be there.
Because they're out.
Because they're the health official, the financial official, whatever. And whether you have 1 or 3 citizen ones, you still are going to have enough for your meeting. So I don't think there's any danger with having a 7. Bob, is correct that you get 2 large, 2 unwieldy, and all of a sudden you don't make your posting. But just like the CPA, where you have 5 mandated members out of 9 from town boards, you always will have that quorum. So same thing with the oversight. You can go to 7, but you're always going to have those core 4 people showing up because it's part of the job.
I think a smaller committee is more effective. I think that.
It would be if there was meeting,
if they
weekly
were
or something like that, but
like-
4 times a year, I don't see any problem with 7, but they'll have more input from a broader thing, I think. You would be right. Smaller would be more effective if it was meeting monthly, bi-weekly, but 4 times a year, 7 people brings more input in, especially 3 citizens.
What do we do about the designee first?
I'd like to see, as Mary Ellen said, a real linear definition of what the designee is. And then I would suggest that perhaps the chair might meet with the party involved and say, exactly, how do you feel this is requires a reopening? If we're talking here, it's just this, and this, why isn't this under your purview already?
Yeah.
And if it really gets, hate to say it, if it goes south, then we have the other option, go back to the fire chief. We have 2 good people that either one could do it, and we don't need to,
Well, that's my other thing about the committee is it really isn't it's an important committee, but it's not something that we should belabor for a long time because you know what you need.
Right.
You need somebody who knows health, you need somebody that,
Mhm.
so you have certain skill sets that should be brought to the table when the discussion of this data is going forward. So I think we should try to make it as quickly as we can.
Right, so I think you're right, we should put it out there, hey, we're looking for volunteer, we've had a couple come in, but we haven't formally asked for anybody to be on this. I think if we have the 4 names of the, so to speak, the town mandated positions, which would be the health agent, perhaps, when you said financial, were you thinking of rep from the advisory?
He's a financial official, so I don't know.
Or
Yeah,
if
it
any-
Or
could,
you
it
think of
could
the
be
town
either someone
treasurer.
from the advisory committee or it could be the town
Treasurer
accountant.
Or town accountant, sure.
Yeah.
From the financial team, if you will. You could let them,
You know, I
cut-
could further
let them
elaborate
cut
on the
cards
role.
for it and the loser can be on the committee, yeah.
I can further elaborate on exactly what the designee is going to do, what kind of interactions are going to take place. The police chief is in this by virtue of the fact that he oversees the dispatch operation.
Mhm.
He is the one who was advising us, if you recall, 6 months ago, that with the AMR situation, our response times were getting to be 20 minutes and above.
Mhm.
And he's the one who just advised us last week that the response time with action is 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the average response time. So he sees that data regularly.
Right.
So
So where do we stand, Chairman?
Well, I have no compunction to open up negotiations with anybody
well,
Nor do I.
at any time, so.
Nor do I.
And I think the fire chief is quite capable of handling it, because from when I read the contract, it's basically once a month, or they send it, they mail just like we got the report, just like we got, they'll send it to him and he can do it. So I would,
See the red flag, just kick it up.
I'm sure he'll
Right.
pick a red flag. Now, Mary Ellen, I know, has had some concern about if there's a conflict there.
Well, no, my first concern is that the police chief would tell us what he's going to do and what we will have to do in order to get him to do this. I mean, I think that he is an employee of ours. He is the emergency management person. And if we say that's part of that job description, then that's part of that job description. You don't want to do that job, then I'm sorry, you'll have to resign, go someplace else, I guess. I mean, I just don't see it's, a matter of, it seems like holding a gun to my head. That's the position I feel like, okay, I'm gonna ask for more money, and if you don't give me more money, I'm not gonna do it. And I don't know that it's that much more that you have to do.
after we went through some initial items, I said, okay, where are the problems? No one spoke up. I said, and then the answer was, things are working smoothly and effectively right now.
One thing, you have your suggestion on the table. I only caution that some of this conversation might get into a possibly exec session type thing when you talk about, opening up, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I caution on that. Otherwise, as the chair said, look, we're not talking about writing War and Peace here. If the fire chief can do the job, do the job. And if it comes up back to our board because it doesn't work, we'll address it.
Well, then I would bring up the fire chief issue, which I do think there is a conflict. I think if you were intending, since we really haven't had a discussion of where the future of the fire department is going, but since we all have a sense for where it's going, I think it's hard to say that the person that would be in charge of that growth would be evaluating the person that is already giving that service. I just think that is to the public, maybe not to, I don't know, somebody, but certainly to me, would seem like that is a conflict. You're evaluating a business or a process that you want to take over. I mean, I don't know, it's very clear to me. And so I think that's an issue.
I understand your thought about the potential of an appearance of it. I have a lot of trust in the, personnel involved. And as I said, we're not looking for them to write War and Peace here. I think the analysis in conjunction with the town administrator will work out fine. So I go back to the chair's suggestion that the fire chief be the designee.
Make a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Any second? I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Opposed?
Opposed. One opposed.
You had a hand raised, by the way.
They can't vote.
No.
You're getting a funny echo.
That was before.
That was before, I think. Can you hear us okay now?
No, we fixed that.
Can you hear all of us?
Yeah, we can hear you. I had my hand raised for quite a while. The only thing I would be cautious.
Yeah.
Ted,
Oh, okay, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
I'm
The
sorry,
only
go
thing,
ahead.
one of the things I'm concerned about there is Ed not a part-time position?
fire chief is, yes.
Yes.
Okay, to me, this is the contact point from the ambulance company to the town. And having only a part-time person on it, I'm sure Ed will answer the phone any time of the day or night. But, you know, he's got other things he's doing there. If we're gonna go with him, then there should be a second person. So if ambulance company has to call, they know who to call if Ed's not available. If it is only a part-time person.
That's
That's
why
why,
I go back to Thad, let's really define the role of the designee, exactly what has to be done. You're right. Let's have a backup as well. But right now, let's put the fire chief in, let's define that role, and let's,
I don't think we want to confuse the day-to-day operations of the ambulance company with the reporting. And we're talking about the reporting. On the day-to-day, if there's a problem, let's say, for instance, action can't be in town and all that stuff. You know, they report that right away to the dispatch center, and the dispatch center makes arrangements. Either we have a mutual aid agreement with East Long Meadow, we have one with Wilbraham. I believe they're negotiating one with Summers. So that kind of day-to-day stuff is handled now, regardless if it's the fire chief or the police chief. This is more for reporting. Who do you send the reports to? Who will chair like Mary Ellen, who will chair the meeting of the committee? So I'm
And it's also
comfortable
to look at what the reports say
with what
and
the
then
reports
reinterpret
say.
them for
Reinterpret
us.
for-
So
right.
to come to us, if we see a problem with whatever the issue is.
I think the question, and John hit on it too there, is it should be a very defined 2 or 3 word sentence. This is exactly what that designee does. And I don't think that we heard that from anybody.
Well, in the contract, it says, I'll read the whole, it's just a short paragraph, but the contractor agrees to quarterly meetings to be held between the contractor and the ambulance oversight committee as established by the town to review emergency ambulance service and performance under this contract. The committee can consist of appropriate members from the town and shall review and improve protocols and oversee an annual review of costs and evaluation of the quality of services. The committee would also address residents' concerns and questions.
that's the committee. But what
That's
about,
the
no, he's
committee.
asking about the designee.
And so if he's the designee, he would be in charge of seeing that all of this
Right,
is
and there's some
done.
other areas.
And
that
there's
does-
another area, but I don't know if I have it marked, which gives his, well, he's in charge of that. I'm looking at it. It seems like it should be right here, shouldn't it?
Well, it's.
Well, at this point, she already voted to give it to him, so let's go on.
The contractor shall, this is, but you might want to hear it just so you know yourself.
Let's see, for mutual aid. Contractor, okay. Well, personnel, can't even find it now.
Well, we can always send you a copy of that section anyways, if you're interested, to give you more information. Just so you know, if you want it. Or don't.
Well, it could be one of those documents that's on the website anyhow, like all the content.
Yeah, right.
Right.
All right, so I go
Can't
back to
find
the
it
first
now.
thing at the beginning. Let's get a good definition of what the designee does. And because Bob is going to obviously go over that with Ed. Okay, by the way, the board voted you to be designee. This is the role as they see it, as spelled out in the contract.
Let me see
Any
that.
questions? Come back to the board.
Okay. I think you did a little bit about the July data.
Yeah.
The July data. So what have we learned so far?
Other than the response time, I don't know that we've learned anything. We haven't really sat down and reviewed it.
And patterns are hard to develop too. You've only had it
It'll
2
take a
weeks. So
while.
you wouldn't get a real
Yeah.
pattern
Well,
after
It'll
2
take a
weeks.
while.
Although they did have 40, I think I counted up 44 transports.
Yeah, they're out there. I asked about the backup. We discussed that as well. And as soon as the tone goes out, they roll a truck right out of Page Boulevard towards Hampden. When they're within 10 minutes of Hampden, they will take calls. They will not take calls if they're farther away than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's the protocol.
Bob, a number I'd like to hear about, what's the number for last July? Now, let's just compare year to year type thing. Are they,
They did
I
tell
want
me,
to say,
by
are
the way.
they toning out
I see.
for different things? Maybe they weren't toning out before.
Well, one of the important discussions had to do with volume, and they said that in the spring, after COVID, and until like last month, they were down 49% across the state in those communities where they served.
In
And they
numbers
said
of
that was
calls?
also the case of other ambulance companies.
Mhm.
They said now they're off 30%. And I said, what's going on? They said people are reluctant to call an ambulance and go to the hospital.
Mm.
So,
Sure.
so.
For good reason.
It's like a movie, it's just a flesh wound.
Mm.
There we go.
Okay. So the oversight committee, we want to decide, you want to do 5 or 7?
Well, I'd like to do 7. I'd like to actually throw it out there. I know we've had a couple people who may have been on the Zoom call and knew we were doing it, but really didn't do a good public ask for participation. If we're a board that really wants to get more people involved, I think it's important that we get it out there, put it out there that we need people involved in these things. And if they're meeting quarterly, it's not like that committee needs to be in place next week. Let's give a chance for more people to, what was the old expression, Don? See how sausage is made?
The only problem with getting it out there is then are you gonna have to decide on the criteria for selection, and then does it become an interview process, or what happens? And
Oh, right now.
you know what I mean? If we just get
set,
set, if we just get 4, we're all set. But if we get 8, then
Well, we could, but either way, we need to decide on the 4 people right now as well. Bob's gonna
We've got
contact
the
the
leading
financial
people.
team, and decide which one of them want to do it.
yeah, but I mean, that we know they're part of us, so they're gonna. one
Right,
of
but I
us
mean,
will
we don't
take
have
it.
that name. So in terms of like, we can't pick the names tonight because we still haven't got that information.
What
And who
name?
would-
For
The
what?
financial team, is it gonna be the
Oh,
town
yeah,
accountant, the town
but
treasurer?
yeah,
the-
right. But you can pick the citizen, is my point, and that's where you're gonna. That's what you're seeking is more citizens, right?
Yes, right, but I mean, we can't
So-
even form the committee right now because we don't have the names of the mandated people, if you will. So if our goal is to, hey, let's get
Oh.
this oversight committee
I
in
get
place
you.
for the.
I understand now. You couldn't have a meeting of the group because the group wouldn't be
We
totally
don't have it.
formed.
So
I
if we're
understand.
looking to get it in place for
End of
September.
September.
Yeah,
the
even
first
even
quarter.
End of
mid-September,
September is
even
the first.
mid-September, is fine.
Is the first
Sure.
meeting.
That's reasonable. And they'll have more data to work with at that point too. They'll have a couple months under their belt.
So who would the 4 town people be?
Well, I think we would say the financial person.
Financial
health-
person,
Health
public safety.
person, which is typically Lori or something probably. Is there a public safety person, did you say?
A public, yeah, it was a police official, either the chief or a designee.
And I think a
Right.
designee, he might
Right,
count.
yeah.
Ask him for his. And then is it a member of the administrative wing, if you will, or
I assume, yeah.
I don't know what what was the name of the 4th person?
Health,
That was health,
The
financial,
administrator,
public.
me.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
so we have 3 defined ones, right? 4 defined ones, I'm
Right.
sorry.
4, and then if you're gonna do 7, you have 3 citizens
Yeah.
available, 3 citizens slots.
Right, but then the town, 4 towns still make up a quorum and they're always gonna meet, so you'll never have danger of not making a meeting. So I recommend the town administrator, somebody from the police department, Jeff can throw it out to those people. You know, you may pick one of the
Yeah.
sergeants, something like that. The financial team, and
You're
Bob can
gonna-
pick out those people or talk to them, Cliff, Dick, advisory, does somebody want to do it?
Well, then you gotta
Are
have
we
a
really
fire
only,
chief.
are we really open only to 2 citizens? Because we say financial officer.
I
We
said, right.
say- yeah, but I think there's only 2 left. Financial officer, right?
Yeah, I thought
The
you said
police
there was
officer.
four defined roles on the committee.
Yes, 4.
there are, but then we have pooling. We have the
The fire chief,
the
because
fire
he's
chief
a
has to be on it, so he's 5.
designee.
Yeah, but is he I want to say, not.
You can't have
ex
the
officio or
8.
something like- No, he could be
You can't have a,
he just reports to the committee. Right, he's the liaison to the committee, if you will. but
He doesn't
not
have to be on it, he could be like,
Liaison, right.
then someone else have to be the kind of like the chairman.
Right. Well, that'd be Bob. I mean, he's the TA.
Right.
That's why you get the big bucks. Aren't you getting a huge
Exactly
money?
right.
All right, so we've got Bob as the chairman and the town administrator, a
The
financial
public safety.
officer, right?
Yeah.
Mhm,
A police officer,
mhm.
a health person, a citizen, or a health person, period. And now we have 3 citizens left,
Three
right?
citizens.
Right.
And
And they work with, and they
Chief
work with the fire
Poulin would
department.
be
The liaison.
the
Ex
ex
officio.
Ex
officio
officio,
member of the board.
right,
Now we have 9,
Mhm.
or 8, whatever we got.
but he wouldn't vote.
8.
He wouldn't have a vote.
That's okay.
I don't see a lot of voting going on.
You're not gonna do a lot of voting, you're just
No,
talking.
no, yeah,
What do you want to do with this?
all right. So
All right, so,
we gotta put it on,
if
So there
If
we are.
Pam or Bob could put that out to the time/reminder, we're looking for people, please get it in by the end of August, and the board will take these names under consideration.
all right.
We can
Uh,
get that into actually almost I want to say like a format that we can use for everything we're looking for. We still need a water operator person, we still need this, we still need that. We need that notice to go out to the paper almost weekly. Spots to fill.
yeah. And put it on the website
as
too.
well, right.
Yeah. So the role of the fire department ambulance. So we have our ambulance.
Mhm.
And there was some confusion about the class of it, but I've spoken to the Office of Emergency Medical,
Mhm.
and they said it is a class 1 ambulance. And there's a certain things that they have to do in order to get it registered and certified and that type of thing. And then the question is, what role do we want for them? Are they going to perform a backup role? Are they just going to sit there? Or are they going to, what are they going to do?
Mhm. How long will the certification take to get done, you know?
No, I don't know, because they have to, according to this, she says that they may, I forget what she says here. They have to complete a couple of forms for the thing, and then they have to be inspected.
Mhm.
Have an inspector come down, he may require a service zone plan and check all that kind of stuff, policy procedure, so I don't know how long that'll take.
So it did sound like there were a couple of, they talked about being the BLS first rollout, or could it be a BLS backup if the ALS was, it would be available for somebody with while the other one is being rolled out for ALS backup, if you will. And that's something I think for our board to decide, okay, do we see a slot that this fits in? But it's gotta be certified first,
Right,
or it can't do anything.
right, and we have to write a letter to say we want it certified.
All right, so let's see what the time frame is for this type of thing. What's the cost for this type of thing?
Mhm.
I think you brought up that point before. Is there a cost to outfit this ambulance that's gonna be paid for somewhere? Do you have to get equipment, stuff that isn't already there? I know we were fortunate, it did come with some things that, so to speak, for the price, we actually got a pretty good compliment. But how much more is it needed to make it certified as class 1?
Okay,
And then we'll talk about the role.
all right.
BLS backup, BLS, if the ALS backup is coming in, maybe they don't want to respond to a BLS call, they want to be the ALS backup.
Well, originally, when Ed was talking about the purchase ambulance, I
Mhm.
went back over that meeting. He said that his thought would be that they would be a BLS backup 8 to 4,
Mhm.
5 days a week. He didn't want us, he wanted to take baby steps,
Mhm.
to get it, so.
So,
Like, I think,
And then they would have to have an agreement, then there would have to be an agreement between them and Action Ambulance when they would be called if actions.
A mutual aid kind of thing.
If action is so occupied,
Sure. So basically, it's almost not the org chart, but it's almost like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Okay, when do we go? Boom,
Yeah,
boom,
yeah.
and I think the other thing we have to be careful about is that the contract that we put the ambulances in service in such a way that it benefits the contract, so
Right.
that we get the rebuttal or whatever we're going to call the,
Mhm.
so
Rebate.
it's financially,
Yeah.
the remuneration to our
Yeah,
town
yeah.
will be as significant as it can possibly be.
All right, so if it's okay with the board, I'll pursue that with Ed.
Yes, but
Remaining on the fire department, the fire department building study.
again, as I said last week, I really question some of the numbers they're throwing out there. $13 million facility, you know, when I see the ones built in the local towns in the $5 to $6 million range. However, this is a good opportunity for the capital committee to you know, take over and come back with some things. We have some people on the committee that have some wisdom. I was also mentioned to the board, Thad expressed interest, well, after I asked him to express interest. He was shanghaied into, yeah, thank you, Thad. Thank you for volunteering, Thad. But he'd be willing to serve on the committee. He has a pretty good background in that type of thing. I think this is a prime example of why you have a capital committee for something like this. And report back to the board, but we can't let it go too soon. There were obviously some concerns about some of the things reported. To me, the biggest thing that's always been a concern is the exhaust system. You know, everything else is, you know, is secondary to the exhaust part. And the first thing I think our committee would look at is there a quick solution for that, whether it's a system you put in just for venting, like almost like you would a restaurant, just to get safety there first and come back with that. And then working with Bob, looking at grants. I reported to the board last week that Rick Green and I had gone to meet with Rep. Richie Neal back when public safety buildings were the rage, and this had to be 10 years ago. That fell out of favor. But as I said to the board before, and Bob knows this well, we're fortunate to have somebody who has a key to the ball. I mean, just say it. So,
Chairman of Ways and Means.
huh? Well, that's it. I'm sorry, but you know, it's our
That won't
turn.
happen this week.
What? Yeah,
If
looking
you
better.
think it's
Looking
happening-
better.
Like a sense of re-election.
Right,
Yeah.
let's wait till the re-election's
I
over.
mean, that's why there's a ton of things in Kentucky being built. Because look who's in charge of the Senate. So it is what it is. What was West Virginia with Byrd when he was in charge? Sure. So I think investigating that and seeing if we get some money. And then, as was briefly touched on, location. You know, could there be opportunities for expansion of the building or relocation of the building? That's again has to come back after you decide what kind of building you're looking for.
Yeah, but I would agree with you. The number one thing is the safety issues
Right.
there, and even the space between where their equipment is. You know, there's a danger of them getting hurt.
Snake
Taking
Snake your way
equipment.
through.
Yeah.
I have concern about the whole capital planning process. I went back and looked at what has happened in capital planning over the years. And they have meetings periodically, not regularly. And there's very little that is done with the information that is gathered as far as productive new building or something, seeing a renovation, with the exception of the town yard, or you know, the highway department is having some work done. And I think that the fact that you do a study doesn't, to me, mean that, okay, you jump to do the renovation. You do a study to see what the condition is. So this is the condition of the building. The idea that the proposals were anything from 2,000 to 13,000, 2 million, excuse me,
Yeah.
2 million to 13 million is of concern to me, for sure. The fact that only one of them has no addition to it. All of the other proposals have an addition either to the building or a whole new building being built. I think those are fine ideas. I don't know if the town is ready for that. I don't know if we need that. So I think we have to have a more, and if we weren't in COVID, I would be saying, maybe we could have a forum, or maybe we could discuss things, or maybe we could, you know, have more of a dialogue about this. But it seems to me the first thing that we have to do is we have to define what the mission of the fire department is. If we haven't defined their mission, if their mission, as the board sees it, is to become a fire ambulance service, then that leads us down one road. If their vision is, or if the board's vision is, or the town's vision is to have them be a fire department, that leads us down another road. So I think that has to be, what do you call it? Peaked out? What do you don't call it peaked out? But that has to be determined.
Yeah.
That seems like a first step before we're even deciding, you know, where are we going for money, or where are we going for site, or where we're going to do it, you know, we're going to do it off, you know, at the police station, in a complex, or any of that. I think that I was really concerned when I looked at the list of projects and how they're not, I have it here someplace, but how none of them had been done. I mean, I got this sheet, which starts in 2021, and there's all those things on it, and most of them have not been done, at least to my knowledge. I mean, maybe you guys may know more than I do.
Well, it starts in 2021, that's next year.
Yeah, but I mean,
They're not done.
but
And
that's,
it wouldn't be done.
no, but it hasn't even been, I haven't heard talk about it, I mean, I mean, maybe it's being done and I don't know about it. I know we've talked about the cupola here for,
Well, like,
how
what-
many
what are
years
the
have we talked
projects
about
on
the
that?
cupola here in the town hall? I brought that study out, and I didn't see, I saw pieces of that maybe were done, but not in an organized fashion, and not in a, so we
Well,
could say, okay, this is the project that's
You're,
done.
you're well aware why that project's not done. Why we've done nothing to the town hall. in
Well, I
terms of
think
like
you're
an
waiting,
overall
you're
plan.
waiting on what's gonna happen to the schools, I
Exactly,
assume.
Right,
Okay, and I
Yeah.
think that if
they
the
have-
town feels that they want a town hall and they want it to be in good condition, then that's what we should be doing.
Sure.
And whatever happens about Thornton Burgess happens about Thornton Burgess, but that's another issue. I don't think you can go one to the other and say, well, okay,
I think
you
you
know-
can, if you're looking at, for instance, you're looking at a bill of up to $700,000 to bring this building up to potential code. And are we wise to put that much money into this building when we have an option to renovate the middle school into more appropriate town hall?
but I guess my point is that discussion has really not been held in a public way with the public input. And we don't know when that decision will be coming. So do we just sit on our hands until that time comes, or do we fix what we can fix?
We have fixed
So-
what we can.
So if we say what we can, but I mean, right now, we don't have to go back and visit the town hall, but right now, if what we say we can fix is, okay, we can fix the safety issues at the fire department. Okay, that's what we can fix right now. That's what we can
John and
afford
I
to
just
fix.
talked about.
Right, that's what we can afford to fix, but we can't afford to, we shouldn't be looking into all this other stuff now because we really don't know what the economy is gonna be, what COVID is gonna be, we don't know anything. So that's where I'm at, just so you know. But I did look into it. Do I get credits for looking into it?
I can attest that the safety issue at the fire department is genuine.
Mhm.
When I was looking at the odometers of the vehicles, we had to start them up. We didn't run them very long,
It's been
but
brief.
the air quality in that building, where there's not very good circulation, it was like smoking 3 packs. And clearly that's something that needs to be addressed.
And I also went over there on a tour and I would second that, third that, whatever. I mean, you could absolutely see there was areas that have to be improved. I mean, just to have it be a functioning unit. So I'm not saying that it doesn't need repair. I guess I'm saying, what is the process we go through to get to that point of repair, and at what level of repair do we repair it?
So the process I think we go through is we have the capital planning committee meet,
Mhm,
say to them, look, this is the number one thing on your agenda.
mhm.
We want you to look at this and determine what our best options are
Mhm. Yeah.
going forward, keeping in mind that the safety considerations are the most important thing.
Yeah, I'll set up a meeting for a report back to the board.
The question about the planning committee meets at the discretion of the board. We've
Right.
tried to meet, but been assigned new selectmen representatives. I thought you've always been the selectman representative, haven't you?
Yeah, I think that's Pam Rogers. Part of the thing was when Mary came on, she kind of took over. Pam, you may remember that. She took over the, Vinnie before me. But then Pam, you remember Mary said she was going to like run the committee. And that kind of held it up for a while. So. I know Mary never met. She took over responsibility but never met with them.
Well,
Anyhow, this is difficult to have that back and forth.
yeah, and I
conversation.
just wanted to correct that because I didn't think that was my memory of, it was, I didn't,
Some
I
of
Some
didn't-
of
I
the other
thought you were
projects on the
pretty
capital
consistent of being
thing,
there.
if you're looking at are typically the trucks,
Yeah,
I
I saw the truck, all the vehicles. I saw a lot of vehicles.
Right, but I mean, those are planned out. I mean, this is starting in 2021, which is next year, and Mark's saying, well, in 2024, the, I don't know, pick a number. The 06 Dodge is gonna need, at its 20-year number or something like that. You
Yeah,
can
but
start to look.
we know we have that system in place for vehicles. I mean,
Right.
that's.
But that's the majority of the
That's,
capital list.
that's, but should it be?
Sure.
Well, then we can't address everything. I mean, what are we not going to address buildings?
We just buildings like we.
But
done
we
with
haven't
that.
addressed buildings. We did Green Meadows, right? We did Green Meadows, right?
Oh,
Green Meadows
that
is,
was
if you go back,
25 years ago,
right?
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
it was, did we get some credit for
And then we
that?
did the police
But that,
station.
and we did the police station,
Right.
right?
And we got the highway department garage.
Right, so we have been addressing buildings, and unfortunately, like I said before, and then maybe the elephant in the room, there's a potential, in my mind, for a solution to fixing up the town hall. But we still need, obviously, is it going this way or going that way
Right.
before we can present a possible solution? If it goes this way, I think it's a solution that should be reviewed.
Well, see,
looked at.
but I even see the solution being, we could put the fire department over at Thornton Burgess. So so you have to need money, okay, but you could do it. You can do anything you want to do if you have enough money.
Yeah,
So,
but you'd be almost rebuilding the entire.
well,
there's no place to put the
it would
trucks.
be rebuilding a lot of it. Yeah. But I mean, it's not impossible. So I think we have to, I operate better when we have a plan and we say, okay, this is where we're going, and we make some progress towards that plan. That's all. But
Mm.
that's fine.
Well,
Uh-oh.
This is the police.
Okay, you're in charge of the committee, you go.
I agree with you about a plan. And someone asked me, what, does the selectmen have a vision
Yeah.
of where they're going here? Okay. And I said, yes, I said, I personally have a vision. And my vision is this, to set up a public safety,
Complex.
I don't want to say complex, public safety program that'll take the town out 25 years. And we're on the verge of that, really, we are, because we have a new police station.
Mhm.
We have a $500,000 new state-of-the-art communication system
Mhm.
going into effect. We have an ambulance service, 24/7, 365 ambulance
Upgrade
service.
the town garage.
We have upgraded the town garage, and we have, now we have this fire department issue that we'll deal with. And if we can get that done in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll be set for 25 or 30 years out in terms of public safety in the town.
And we would have addressed the fire station and,
The fire station, we have a new police station. we
yeah,
have
but
a new
that's already happened. What would we be
Well,
doing?
it's- well, it's
What
all-
would we be
progression
doing going
is, yeah.
forward?
Going forward, we're having the communication system.
Which is backwards, but, I mean, we
Well,
already
no,
paid
I
for it.
think Don's
Well,
point is that we've been addressing these.
Well, just because it was voted on last year doesn't mean it
No,
doesn't
but
count.
But if you want to keep going forward, you got to keep going forward. So you
Okay,
said,
so,
okay, we've
okay,
addressed.
so if you
we've
got
got-
if piece number 1 is the police department, piece number 2 is the updated communication system, piece number 3 is 24/7, 365 ambulance,
Mhm.
piece number 4 is the fire department,
Okay,
right? And
if
then,
that gets voted.
right, and then,
Town
then,
hall,
then you
town
could turn
hall.
your attention to the senior center, and who knows what's gonna happen with the school in the meantime, but that would be the plan, in my
Right, right.
mind, that's the plan going forward.
You're right, because you don't take everything on at once, you go.
We could never afford it. I mean,
Well-
if we were a huge city like Boston and go out and we could do $100 million bond, then we could build a new fire station, a new senior center, a new town hall,
I
a
would
new
agree with-
selectman's office.
I would agree with you entirely that that's a great plan, and I think it's good, okay? What I object to is that we do a study, but we have an architect come in and do a study, and all of a sudden the thing becomes our priority, and this is what we're gonna do. And I don't think
Oh, but this didn't all of a sudden become a priority. This went to the town meeting.
Right.
The town
year ago
discussed it.
voted
A year ago
24.
voted to do the study.
well,
The
it doesn't.
year
People
ago.
I talk to don't even know we're talking about the fire station. Honest to God.
Well, I can't help it
Honest
if
to
they
God.
don't read the paper, go to the town meeting, or
No, I
Go to
can't
one
help
of our
it
meetings.
either.
We
I
voted
can't
what,
help it either.
40,000? We voted a pretty good number. for the
$40,000.
$40,000.
$40,000 at the town meeting, and voted overwhelmingly. We went out, we had a bid process. We interviewed 4 architects or 3 people. We chose an architect. The guy did his job. He gave us this tremendous report. It's a little pricey at the end for us, but it's like, it's like planning a daughter's wedding. You start off with, it's going to be $20 a plate and ends up $400 a plate. But that's,
Then you roll it back to a Zoom, and then you're all set, yeah.
so I mean, there is a vision, a plan, a movement there. And I think the number one thing, obviously, is the safety things.
Right, I agree with that. We'll look at that.
And who knows, maybe we can move it all over to Thornton Burgess. which is quite the construction project.
A plan is only a plan if everybody knows it exists. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
I won't say another
How
word.
would you
I
suggest,
would not say another
how
word.
would you
I would
suggest
not
we
say
let
another
everyone
word.
know it exists? What would you like me to do?
I would have a whole campaign to make people aware of what's going on in town. Whether it would be through mailings, whether it would be through on the website, whether it would be through, but I don't think that honestly, all I can tell you is what people tell me.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. I know what goes on. I don't have a problem
I know,
understanding
I know
what's going
people
on.
don't know.
But you can't tell me that they don't feel informed.
Well,
So-
I don't know what else to do. We have our meetings. The meetings are on Zoom. I can't, the newspaper covers what they can cover. I suppose we could have another
Okay, we can
forum.
drop it.
No,
We
no.
could have another forum, and the people who will come will be the people who come. And would you like me to give you the list of the 75 people who can come? I can name every one of them,
Okay,
right? You could probably too.
okay,
All right.
let's do something easier, like regional dispatch next on the agenda.
Okay,
Oh,
all
for
right.
God's sake, I'm going home.
All right, regional dispatch. You had a meeting?
We did. Again, a second meeting with the town of Wilbraham, called by the town of Wilbraham, after they have checked out some information from the state 9/11 office. And we had, I think, a very productive discussion. It was claimed that the town will be eligible for upwards of $200,000 in state grant money if they go ahead with consolidation with Hampden. Incidentally, I was on the phone with the 9/11 office that very morning before the meeting, and that was confirmed to me as well. They currently receive $52,000 from the state to underwrite their operations. Consolidation with the town of Hampden would mean they would get additional PSAP money. That's around $25,000 that comes to Hampden. That would be moved over to the new PSAP, which was Wilbraham. And they would be eligible for a so-called incentive grant. I assume it's up to them to figure out whether that grant is adequate and whether that grant would be multi-year or not. But without any other reimbursements or fees, it seems as though they would stand to benefit by about $150,000. As you know, we discussed earlier with them, and their question was, what's in it for us? And we did not have an answer to that. We have gotten conflicting information from the state, frankly. The Wilbraham administrator was told, no, you're not getting any additional incentive money at one point. I was told that. And now it looks like the state's position is, or has changed, and that they're willing to provide an incentive grant that would, I think, be a fairly handsome incentive for the town. One of the discussions we had earlier was, in answer to the question, what's in it for Wilbraham, the TA said to me, we would want to share a portion of your savings. And I said, well, have you figured out the share? He said 50-50. I said, I don't think anybody's going to buy that. And he said, well, maybe we would be willing to go for 75-25. In other words, if the town of Hampden were to save $200,000, they would want 25% of that. I then said to him, I think that's going to be tough, because if that's the case, if that's your bottom line, then the Westcom deal is a better deal, because they're not asking for any share of our savings. I said, I don't know what the selectmen are going to do, but I said, that's a reality. Then it turns out that apart from any issue of sharing the savings in Hampden, they apparently are going to be eligible, at least for 1 year, for a $150,000 increase in their incentive grant from the state 9/11 office. that's where we left it. I'm sure we'll continue these meetings as they do. But I would say at this point, it looks as though the Wilbraham option looks more attractive than it did a few weeks ago.
Let me ask you, so is everyone on the same page, at least with the incentive grant? Is everyone on the same page that Hampden would pay nothing for years 1 through 3?
Yes.
50 and then 20,
Yes.
25 and 50% reimbursed and 25% reimbursed.
I confirmed that again with the 9/11
Okay,
office.
and Wilbraham understands that as
They
well.
understand that.
Okay, everyone agrees that Wilbraham would get the PSAP money.
Yes.
I think we get 25,000.
25.
That would go to them because the PSAP
Right,
would be
because
over
they're
there.
in the PSAP.
And they would get the training money,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
they agree to that.
Yes.
Oh, they agree that everyone's on the same page.
Right.
That. And then the third thing is everyone's on the same page that the state would give them $150,000 in incentive money the
Yes.
first year to do all the things.
Right.
Okay.
It's not clear if they're going to get that money beyond the first year.
Okay.
That's one question that hasn't
Yeah.
been answered.
Okay.
And, well, I think that's the main question at this point that remains to be answered. And I asked the question at the very end of the meeting, will the town of Wilbraham be satisfied with that additional sum of money in a consolidation? And I didn't get an answer, but it seemed as though if they can make that work for a couple of years, probably, they would be satisfied. They haven't raised the whole issue of sharing our savings. Again, I did confirm with the state 9/11 office that the town of Hampden will receive the original deal of 3 years without any cost, 4th year at 50%, 5th year at 25%, whether we consolidate with Westcom or Wilbraham. So that's the deal on the table for us. Question now is, I think they're going to do some additional work over there, checking and so forth. And
And the two things we give up, the PSAP and the training, you would give up no matter which
We
one.
give,
you
no
go.
matter what you do, you give that up
Once they
anyhow.
make town.
yeah, you
Right,
give it up.
you give it up anyhow, yeah. Okay, let's talk about service and functionality.
Yes.
All right?
Yes. Well, I think in terms of what Wilbraham would do, they did mention the hiring of one additional dispatch person
And,
in the
yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Does that mean they could have a minimum of 2 dispatchers 24/7, which is what would be required to do genuine emergency medical dispatch? Unanswered question right now.
Right.
I thought they had 2 right now.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
they're gonna, well, it's gonna be expanded work,
Right.
and they just said they're gonna hire one more person.
So they would have 2 on all the time.
three on,
And
They
they
do
probably
have
need
2
someone
on
to.
right now all the time.
Yeah.
right, so they would have 3 on all the time, so wouldn't that be more than?
Oh, yeah.
2?
Yeah.
Now, they said that we can still get in under the deal that we had last year,
Yes,
right in the fall,
yes.
right now.
And they told, the state office
Not
told
just-
me that they have some money left over, whatever that means.
Hard to believe.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's a segregated
Yeah,
account
yeah.
based on your cell phone taxes. And that if the Board of Selectmen in Hampden were to make a decision to consolidate relatively soon, they think that this could be put together for early January, and that they have some funding that they could provide in January to
For
get
you-
us through the current fiscal year, and then we would have the 3 years.
For either
4 years or 5 years,
for either location?
Pardon?
For either
For
location?
either location.
So they really want to expand.
What's that?
So Westcom really wants these deals to be made.
The state.
And the state, yeah, but I
The
mean,
state
through
wants a deal to
Westcom,
be made because
Yeah.
they're
They-
tired of
they-
paying PSAPs
right,
to
exactly.
small dispatch centers around the state.
Mhm.
And I think that you can be there's no doubting that over the next few years, the state is going to force consolidation. I mean, that's the reality. We can ignore it, but it's clear that that's going to happen. And the hammer that they're going to use is that they're going to pull back
On the amount of money they're gonna give us.
on the money that they
Yeah.
provide.
So there's no mandate right now, but you
No.
can see the incentives coming along.
Yeah.
They're trying to shove everybody into this pile.
Well,
Now,
and I think they're pushing to do this quickly, to shove everybody as quickly as they can, because that was their talk about Soldier College and how quickly can we get this done? Because we want to get, they're going to be making a decision. We want to be sure we're going to get where we're going to get. So there was a lot of talk about that.
So we have three options here. We can do nothing, leave it in the police
Yeah.
station. We can consolidate with Wilbraham. And we can consolidate with Westcom, and it looks like relatively the same money.
right, right.
I would imagine, and I can't speak for them, but I would imagine if Wilbraham received this huge amount in whatever they're not interested, or 50,000, that takes care of their what's in it for us
Mhm.
question. So we have a decision to make. Do we make it as part of our job as on the board? Do we make it a more general polling type thing? Or do we get a committee together to really look at the pros and cons? What's the advantages and disadvantages of moving the dispatch 10 miles away versus, I don't know, 30 miles away or something like that? And the oversight being a neighbor or a third-party company. Or leave it here and just say, look, that's part of what we pay our taxes for. We like having dispatch in our town. And we say, yes, but it's our job to look at different ways to reduce the tax impact on people. And that's why we come up with this.
Let me ask you about the dark police station, which will be an issue. I've asked the chief to do a survey
I saw that.
of the
I saw.
the lobby
Yeah.
stuff. So I asked him to do a month survey. So he sent us 1 week so far.
Yeah.
And I asked for 3 more weeks, just to see what kind of traffic we get there. Most of the traffic on the
It was interesting. Didn't you think it was interesting?
it was
I thought
interesting.
very
The initial survey, there was nothing, on the initial week that he got there was nobody appeared in the station after 6 o'clock at night. And only one person appeared in the station prior to 8 o'clock in the morning, and that was to use the bathroom in the lobby. Most of the stuff was to pick up paperwork and that for gun permits and accident reports, so. But we'll see what the 3 or the 4 week
It goes
survey.
back to what Jeff said. I mean, when we talked about relocating the police department, he said the police department is a mobile operation.
Yeah, it is.
You have a problem at home, you're at 2 in the morning, you're not driving down to the station, you're calling 911, can somebody be at my house? So, I think is it East Long Meadow, they do the camera thing?
Yes.
I think.
And Long Meadow was
Long Meadow,
2.
there's the 2, I think.
Yeah.
You spoke to Long Meadow about their station?
I did. They said that there was some initial controversy about it. They said that they thought, well, I talked with the town manager. She said that they thought things were going smoothly at this point, both with the company that they've gone with, as well as that situation. One more piece here. I did have another conversation with Westcom, and the question was, what would happen if the town were to consolidate? Are there jobs available for dispatchers? Because one of the questions that you posed to me was, if we were to do this, what kind of unemployment costs would we have to incur? And so, without any guarantees, obviously, Aaron said to me that there are jobs available in the region for dispatchers. And that's all that we could say at this point.
So are you making a proposal, Mr. Flynn, of some type, or was that just general discussion topic?
I think it was really just to lay it right down to those are our 3 choices. How we're going to address them. We obviously have interest in people being part of a dispatch committee. It's a big thing. I'm not against getting a committee. I'm also not interested in dragging this out for 3 years. You know, we owe it to the people to make a quick choice. You and I had, in our discussions about, are we gonna make it for the fall town meeting or the spring town meeting? I think in light of my comments about the potential for a problem with fall town meeting, I think that option's off the table. And that's what I'll cover a little later about when we talk about fall town meeting. I really think this is something that's gonna have to go to the spring town meeting. But I don't think it's a referendum question. I think it's us bringing the budget forward at next spring town meeting. This is the choice we made. We got input from people. We got input from a little committee we put together. And this is the job you pay us for, is to put the budget together. It is right that we get information from the population, that we go out and ascertain what services they're willing to pay for. But at the end of it, just like Harry Truman, the buck does stop here. And it's incumbent upon us to bring that choice forward with input from people. The reason I don't think we can do this for the fall town meeting, I'm extremely concerned that we're gonna be limited in what we can do for the fall town meeting
The way things are
in terms of the
going.
way things are going. I think the board should have a hard look at possibly having the meeting at the beginning of October, where we could look at outside options. If we are required to do some of the money things we're talking about, that would be important. If we don't deal with, as you're aware, if you don't deal with free cash, it rolls over, it does not get applied to the tax rate. And that's not gonna be fair. We could live without it, but it also sets the tax rate higher, which is tough to come down from. So, one of the reasons I don't think we should be pushing this for, because we're pulling now the town meeting up quicker, we have less time to come up with a plan for it.
So you're saying a town meeting at the beginning of October,
I'm suggesting that
Yeah.
because
and then,
if we're looking at options that aren't going to include inside the school because we're limited in number of people, if we're also looking at putting the money things back on that warrant because we pushed them from the
right,
annual
the
to
money,
keep the crowd
money item, all
down,
the money items.
you
right.
could have more people there. So we're better off to say, okay, we'll use what other towns did and have it outside, perhaps at Farm Burgess. In that case, you're looking at, in my opinion, late September, early October, to be reasonable. The other things that are looking at the motions, we talked before about, and this is a little off subject, we talked before about some of the things, the cruiser, Cliff came up with an excellent way of taking care of that without impacting taxes. We talked about restoring some of the extra money to tree work, and I think after last week, we're not gonna get a lot of argument on that. Some people might say to us, you're not asking for enough, but to put that extra 100,000 back. Couple little articles like Concom, et cetera. And then we have a decision to make, both funding the debt as the treasurer asked, and then putting some either in stabilization or against the tax rate. I think Bob has been working with the assessors department to see if they are working on coming up with a preliminary, I don't want to say guesstimate, but they're doing their number massage now to see what the impact of last year's budget is on the upcoming tax rate, factoring in new growth, et cetera. These are all things together. We also have a timeline, you know, when you have to advertise, have public hearings,
it's-
things like that.
And the planning board has a issue with the ambulance. They want to.
No, the solar thing, isn't it? Oh, no, the ambulance as well, but also then that
more.
moratorium, they also want to take care of.
They want to take the solar moratorium off, but they want to, but the ambulance, they need to get a
Right.
Change to
bylaw
the-
in there. So I
The
don't know
table
what
of
they're.
uses, basically, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the table of uses, right?
Yeah.
And what is that?
Basically, right now, the commercial zone it's in doesn't allow.
Doesn't
that.
allow.
Or down
So-
on the
Right,
new place,
right,
not
yeah.
the hot.
so they gotta they gotta do it, change the table
got
of
it.
use and
I
it has
got
to
it.
go to
Table
the.
of
So that
usage.
requires public
I
hearing,
understand. Yeah,
advertising, and there's
yeah.
certain time from
Yeah.
there. So I think right now, I think it would be good for the board to really think about picking a date for the town meeting. Again, we always had the end of October to let all the numbers settle in. The most important number right now is free cash, and that's settled in.
Mhm.
So there's nothing that says you can't have it earlier in October, nothing at all. You walk backwards from, you know, advertising time, 2 weeks for the warrant to be posted, advisory to have their meeting. I would say, I would like a suggestion to the chair in the next 2, maybe 3 weeks, or by Labor Day, let's lock in that date for the
Okay,
town meeting.
all right.
Be the 26th of October?
No, I'm saying, no, I'm saying we're talking like the 7th of October.
7th.
If we're having it outside, I don't want
Oh,
it
I
at the
see.
end of October, right? Although it'll make the meeting go quick.
You're not
It's,
a hardy New Englander.
Not a hard.
We could do it on a Saturday afternoon.
And we could that too, right? Again, the
No.
date is not required, not in, the
Stone.
bylaws,
Yeah.
Right,
you know, for the special.
But I would, I think I'm opposed to deferring the decision on the dispatch until the spring. I think we need to make that decision one way or another.
But here's the thing, the decision you're making is actually, all you're doing is the decision is funding. Technically, the only decision you're making is how much money you're appropriating for the police department line.
Well, here's my theory.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Here's my thinking. We talked about it, that we would make this decision in the fall,
Mhm.
when we should stick with that. Also, that if we make the decision and we say we're gonna do this and we're gonna go forward with it on January 1st or February 1st or
Mhm.
whatever,
Mhm.
right? We have money in the account already appropriated
Mhm.
that we could use to pay for the unemployment, if there's unemployment or anything else that we need to do.
Mhm.
It's already there. And then there wouldn't be necessary for the town, if we decide to do it, if we waited till spring, then we would have to fund an additional sum of money to pay for any expenses that were incurred if we decide to close the dispatch here.
Mhm.
The biggest concern I heard raised at the other meeting that we had was that there had not been enough research and that the people there didn't know enough about the process and have enough involvement in the process.
Right.
That's the main thing that I got out of that meeting. Should we, or do we think we would want to put a thing on the website? If you have any questions about dispatch, please submit them. One of these things to get people to be able to ask whatever questions they
Yeah,
have, or seek out information, or have a, I don't think we can have a forum, so, you know, we can't have a forum, but we could put out something so that everybody would feel that they had been informed enough, and if they were allowed to raise their own questions, not just answer
Well,
our
I think we should
questions.
do that anyhow, whether we decide to do it. I mean, it's gonna be the
Yeah,
same
but I mean, we have to
questions.
do it in a timely fashion. This is August, so
Yeah.
if we're gonna do it in November, we've got to get it out.
Well, right
in
now, we're
September.
talking about with the data just suggested, less than 2 months before town
Right.
meeting.
Right, less than 2
So,
months.
and August is typically not something we do something in because people are away.
No,
Although
but we,
in these times, maybe they're not.
right, now, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which brings me to
exactly.
another topic after, thank
Um,
you. All right, so we'll continue gathering information. Let's make a decision next week on a town meeting date,
Mhm.
I like the idea of not deferring the dispatch and getting it over.
town meeting date, okay?
Mhm.
And hopefully the chief will have some more data
Mhm.
to what can have. All right, so we'll make that decision next week. We talking, October what, Jed? Seventh, so.
Yeah.
Maybe if we
And that
had,
actually,
And we
you know,
don't want it in November because you think it's too cold, we couldn't do it
No.
outside, and if we,
yeah, he thinks it's gonna be too
It's gonna
cold
be too
in November
cold
if
and
we
we'll
have
be
to do it
outside, so
outside.
do it
We have to
outside,
do so, yeah.
okay, because October 7th is quick.
I know it is, but also the thing is that
I mean,
what has to do with the tax rate, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, but you
You
should
have to set- you have
also
to do the
just
money
check that the
transfer,
planning board can
If the
get their
tax
thing
rate
done.
goes out,
Just check that the planning board
yeah.
can get their,
sending the tax bills out, so you do the town meeting beforehand.
But we'd be moving it back anyway, so the
Right,
tax
should be
rate
fine. But
wouldn't affect any of
That's what I'm
that. It
saying, we're
would
not
just be,
pushing into November, because it screws up the other timing.
Are you choosing the 7th, John, for any particular, it's a Wednesday?
You said 20, was it a Wednesday? I don't know
I
what-
said the 26th, so that it'd be the 5th.
Okay. Is that the holiday?
that's just,
weekend or the
we
next
don't
one?
know if we're gonna do that date or not.
It's the next one, it's Columbus.
No, I
Day,
mean,
the
because
12th.
I throw what you said, I mean, Saturday is,
oh,
is
it's
certainly
Columbus
open.
Day is
Yeah,
Monday,
yeah.
the 12th?
Columbus is the second weekend in October, the 5th is what we're really
the
talking
first
about
weekend.
here, rather than the 7th, and that's the first weekend.
Or the choice is the
So we
third, if
can-
you want to open a Saturday afternoon when it's.
And you had suggested, or somebody had suggested back when, try Saturdays for town meeting anyways, hadn't they?
Yeah, I've been
So-
saying that, but I mean, we're limited because of the annual is in the bylaws as a Monday.
Oh, okay.
But this was, we can do this any day.
We do this anyway, and maybe Saturday afternoon is a
Right.
great time. Yeah.
Status of the solar facilities.
And waiting for
I've asked the assessors to tell us where things stand. As you know, we've lost our principal assessor. Jane apparently had a conversation with Norm Charest about it. They have a chart that they're going to give us. I don't have it at this point. Talk with Norm today. He's going to come in tomorrow and provide that, and we'll have it for you next week.
Update on the police and fire communications installation. My favorite topic.
I was gonna contact, at least someone from Marcus today, and I didn't get to it. I was hoping that somebody was gonna say they had documents ready. It seems to me that documents are the only thing that are standing in the way at this point. I'll check in with Rose.
And the
tomorrow.
documents we're talking about is putting that 19-inch piece of hardware into one of the little sheds that Verizon and AT&T or whoever owns it or denied that they owned it.
Right.
Have finally agreed to, and that's what the document, right?
We've got to revise the lease, and we need whatever protection from Verizon that will allow us
Okay.
to stay in that location.
Because the reason I bring this up, as you know, when the power went out this last time, the generator was running out of gas again up at the thing, and they had to cut their way up there to fill the generator with gas. So we were almost without emergency communications again. So I would like to,
Light a fire under them.
yes, encourage them
Well,
that
fine, use soft words. Light a
encourage
fire under them.
$500,000, we might want to get this done.
I mean, I thought the big holdup was gonna be the FCC thing
Yeah.
at the beginning.
No,
Once
that's
got
done.
it
That's
was like,
taken care of.
why wasn't everything else lined up? Why they're waiting for that to go? Whatever.
These are
Spoke to
questions.
town council today, and she thinks that things are worked out. The stars are aligned.
I know, but I just want
The
to,
radio system may not be obsolete before we get it installed, in fact.
Nay.
all right. So we talked about a special town meeting. One other item I want to bring up is the, make the town employees aware of the governor's policy that people returning from vacation, if they are coming from states that are not in New England, and including Rhode Island, if you're coming from Rhode Island, from the beach, you have to quarantine for 14 days or get a COVID test, or, because they come back from vacation, and which it could be a problem at the schools, I think, too.
Oh, speaking of that, I did throw that email out. What do you think about inviting
School committee,
chair
yeah.
and 2 reps to have a little
Yeah.
powwow?
Okay,
Well,
if we
maybe
can set
next
that up,
meeting
yeah,
or something.
next week or the week after when
Sure.
they're probably
And there's stuff
straight
there
out too,
right,
but,
So if they're coming from Rhode Island, they have to quarantine, don't they?
if they come from Rhode Island,
They
they have to.
but
So
not
if
the New
you
England states.
go to Musqueamish,
Yeah, so
although I want to remind you that Rhode Island is in New England.
I was just gonna say,
I knew that, I got that, but all the other New England states, well, how did that Rhode Island get the way,
Not New Hampshire, look for your guy.
What?
how did Rhode Island get you're gonna quarantine from them?
I think they had a lot of, a big spike in COVID cases, and I think because people were going to the beach and
And they said, okay,
congregating
let's get them up.
and
Come on.
anything else to come before the board?
Well, there was one thing. Don't we have to sign for the primary, an election notice or something? Did Eva send you to you? Typically, the board has to post
Small
for the,
posting, yeah.
Warrant for the state.
Which reminds me also, I understand that there are many absentee ballots are coming in. Stacks every day.
from out of town. What?
Absentee ballots,
Absentee or early mailing?
absentee.
That would be surprising for absentee.
Yeah, well, because they sent out the thing, you want to
That's
mail
early
it.
mailing.
What's the difference?
Absentee, you have to give a reason, you have to fill
No,
out
you
a
don't.
form.
Yeah, you do.
You don't have to
you
give
do.
a reason
For
anymore.
absentee. No, I mean, back in the day, you had
Yeah,
it for
right,
absentee. Yeah.
and
No.
it's a process more,
You
whereas
don't
the
have
other
to.
thing is just the postcard they sent you. You sent the postcard back.
Now, are most of these ballots coming from our town, do you notice, or are they being sent in?
I don't know,
Overseas.
Probably not.
the 8 or
We're probably
10
gonna
ice,
be-
the 8 or 10 ice sent in.
We're gonna be the,
Town
He's got a
administrator's report.
We've
I'll
covered
go through this
everything on your
quickly. Yeah,
report,
we've
yeah.
covered most of it. Senior Center feasibility study
Yeah.
contract has been signed. This, I'm sure you don't know about yet, that I've posted the highway garage expansion project on the central register
Yeah.
and established dates. Mid-month, we're going to be doing a pre-bid tour and conference for anyone interested in bidding. We're all ready for that. Mark is on board with that, so.
I can bring one thing up. I had a conversation with Mark and with Larry. We are a touch concerned just because of the delay that, you know, we're very concerned about the bids coming in. So we'll be monitoring that carefully. We do have a couple of, I don't want to say alternates, but you know, the typical things that could be extra. Might not be able to get to those. If the construction season has gone a little better, our original estimate may be off and we won't get alternate 1 or alternate 2 to be aware of. They weren't so necessary that we would say, oh, we gotta have alternate 1, so we're gonna need an extra 25. We would try and keep it inside the original number.
Okay.
Okay, we're also sorting out the whole legal bill situation, some being COVID reimbursement and so forth. Agenda management software. I've looked at 2 packages. One advantage for residents from this software, which we can pay for with COVID funds, is that you can look at a video of the selectmen's meeting. And what will happen is if you bring it up and we're looking at it, it shows you the agenda first. And you can click in the agenda
Where you wanna,
the part that you want to watch. So you don't have to watch the whole meeting. If you're interested in, let's say, the dispatch discussion, you can click, it'll take you right there.
that's great.
And so I think that'll make the whole video thing much more convenient for residents. And anyway, we're not ready to make a decision, but we're just reviewing options right now. Ambulance Oversight Committee, we've talked about. New computers, we're struggling here. Part of the reason is that computer production is behind as well. And so we were supposed to have 2 laptops for the senior center installed on Thursday. Didn't come. We do have a desktop for the assistant for the town treasurer, but they weren't able to get that in on Thursday either. So he's coming back this Thursday, and we hope he'll be able to finish up the work and provide the new equipment that we need.
Can I ask a question? The Dell that I got, computer,
Yes.
I use an Apple at home.
Yes.
Can I do everything on that Apple that I could have done on the Dell? Is Dell giving me any more sophistication?
No, I mean, they make Office for
So-
Mac just as well. I would just question, do you have good protection
I don't want to see
software
this
on the
fucking
Mac
chat.
phones? Because the Dell.
Fucking hate
something
Zoom.
good from Entra.
Because I
And
thought I
since
do.
you're gonna be
and I thought I
VPNing
do.
into the host here, we really want to be sure that,
Can you tell?
it's
him?
just you looking, not the Russians. That's all.
Yeah. Well, because I'm thinking if you need my computer at home, I'm not using it. I just let it sit there because I got everything on the other one already.
Right, but I'm concerned
know,
if the
I've
other
got-
one you're using.
But I
mean,
got,
what
and
do
I
you-
can check
Right,
how
yeah.
much security there is on that.
Right,
But
I mean, you have a
but-
good copy of Norton or McAfee or something
yeah,
like
right,
that.
right. I think it's McAfee, but I'll double check.
Yeah, I think,
And then
if
so
you
then I can
prefer
just give it
the
to you and
Apple
you can give it.
system,
You can, but then you can give it to one of the
Roll that
people at
down
the
there,
senior and
like
just
that.
Yeah.
have somebody so you
Did the
don't have to
one come
wait.
in for the fire
Do
station?
you use yours?
No,
Dell?
but
You
they're
don't?
Yeah.
so on
That was
order.
a desktop though.
But
not
that,
a-
a
that was-
desktop, yes.
oh, wow.
Yeah, but I don't want the stuff on my own computer.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
When I,
what
when I leave office, I want to just turn that in clean.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
like
I'm just gonna throw mine away.
Do you think state of emergency for the tree situation, the storm? Is it too late to declare that? Should we declare that? Does it give us anything?
It's not too late. I bumped into
In
Angelo
case-
at the,
in case the state comes out with some money.
Yeah.
I bumped into Angelo at Starbucks the other day and said, is there a chance of something? He's like,
I bet
Well,
he
he
says
said,
yes,
with
there's
what?
always a
With
chance.
what?
I
There's
bet he
always a
said there's
chance.
always a chance.
and his point is like, it costs you nothing to do it. If something comes up, I know Mark is tracking his bills. I would suggest that we declare a state of emergency for the storm that happened in the past week and all expenses derived from it. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The other issue is we need to decide about the dispatch, if we're gonna have a committee or not committee,
A group.
a group. All right, so we should think about for next week.
Fine. Everyone send in their interest, send it to Bob.
Right.
Let's decide next week.
Okay.
Okay, put this
Yeah.
to bed.
Put it to rest.
Unpaid.
Unpaid committee.
Unpaid. Tax work off.
Oh, Becky had submitted a mechanic position the firehouse.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw that.
Apparently they have somebody maybe been doing it, but she had neglected to send it in earlier. She just wants your blessing that it's okay.
He's the person in charge.
Okay.
I motion that any roles that the tax administrator comes up with are not right. As
Second.
long as I believe the number we have from, and you can verify that, we're still at 10 from the assessors.
That's the number.
If you can just get a current count that they're good for next year for
Yes, I
10.
will check.
If that's the case, then I make a motion that we approve that request.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any further business?
For the board.
Well, we're gonna talk about a committee next week. Inside next week in the committee. For the
Motion to
dispatch.
adjourn.
All in favor? Oh, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.